Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
So in today's episode, ladies, we have Leslie Alessandra. She made history in this country by selling the first home via NFT backed by real estate. And she goes through her journey and not just her entrepreneurial journey, but just being a complete trailblazer in this area of blockchain technology, NFTs, cryptocurrency, and all of these areas that many people are still learning about. And she's totally trailblazing with her and her female-led entrepreneurial team. So you're going to enjoy this so many ways and get so much from it today.
Yeah, she's going to walk through how did she do it, the pros and the cons, the ups and the downs, and why real estate investors should spend some time getting educated and learning more about this new era that we are navigating.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show. It's so excited to have you, Leslie Alessandra, to our show today to talk about NFTs and a lot of really important, interesting pieces of what's happening in the world right now. And I know so many women want to know more about this, especially when it comes to real estate. So excited to have you on today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and our community.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me here.
Great. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you amazing women and men who listen to our show along our journey, right, Andressa? You're on this journey with us and we want to make this time well spent for you. So we like to just jump in, share a quick tip with all of you, and then get to Leslie and just so much that I selfishly and Andressa selfishly wants to learn today about today's topic. Mm-hmm. So I have a quick tip just to kind of share something that came up on, we have a Strive membership. And these are women that are experienced 5 to 10 deals. They're done with being a solopreneur and they really are trying to build teams, processes, and scale their portfolios. And this woman, one of our members, was going through, she's an investor in short-term rentals. She was going through on a mastermind, just an experience that she's going through about getting sued and how all the neighbors and attorneys are really pressing her. And it's a big deal, right? Because she has a number of units in this particular geographical area. And she was upset, and that's the safe space we've created. And she had, a lot to share. It wasn't just a technical question because we go a lot deeper, than that. It's usually more deeper than just the technical. How do I move through this? And Andressa and I both kind of jump in and kind of ask questions and then support that person. And of course we supported her. But on when I had my turn to kind of share and ask some questions and give her some input, I said, congratulations, and she goes, well, she looked a little like not happy.
What the hell?
What are you saying? I just got sued. Did you hear me? And then I shared a story that when I was going through a lawsuit and I had lunch with my brother-in-law and he was an entrepreneur, really the only entrepreneur I knew. And I was sharing what happened to me. First thing he said to me was that, congratulations. And I was like, I don't know if you heard me, Tony, and I said it again. He's like, no, I heard you. And what his point was, and what my point was to this member was when we start to scale, and we start to grow and expand our investing business and expand any business for that matter, things are going to happen. And those are the things that happen, right? And it's almost like a badge of honor. It's like I was like a pin, right? I've gotten sued. And it's not that we're proud of that by any means, but the quicker you move through that, you're on the journey of building something bigger than yourself. And so that was his point to me. And it was kind of my point to her. And I didn't know how it was going to land because, but then, in our Facebook group where everyone's kind of chiming in and sharing and Strive, she shared how appreciative she was of both of our kind of advice and how she kind of got re-engaged with moving through this process in a stronger way. Not that it's ignoring it, but in a stronger way. So I say that because I know women and the men that listen to our show are going through something. And we often want to just push that aside. And we just want to go through it as fast as we can so we can move on in our lives. But I would say just take a moment and say, congrats, because you're going through the tough moments and the hard things in this business, loss of money, tenants not paying you. I mean, make the long list, right? We've all gone through. means you're closer to, and you're moving through closer to the opportunity where you're going to grow and learn and expand your business. So it's a good thing, actually. In the realm of your business trajectory, it's a good thing. Right now, it doesn't feel that way, of course, but it's a good thing from your, keeping the end in mind perspective. So I want to share that because I know others are going through tough times, and I don't mean to mitigate those or say that they're not important or the feelings you have, but keep the end in mind and keep the big picture in mind.
Yeah. And one thing that we don't know what we don't know, right? And that is the power of being part of a group where other experienced women, we can leverage their experience and they can see our blind spots. Because this was a case of her reframing. We did not resolve her problem in half an hour. We were able, yes, to reframe how she saw it and get the resources and think about possibilities that can be created to reach her goal. Because when you are going through those situations, you're thinking, I'm going to freaking quit because this is not the plan, or this is not how I want to live my life. But once we reframe, something clicks in our mind, and then we can start seeing the same reality. The reality did not change, right? It's the same thing, but the perception, the energy that we're putting on it is really priceless. So for those of you that are not part of a group, I encourage you to check out Strive membership. We are opening the doors in December. Not open yet, but you can apply for it. So we're going to put the link on our website of the website below. It's therealestateinvestor.com/membership. So check it out.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, Leslie, without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by asking you this question. What has been the lesson that's taken you the longest to learn?
That's a great question. Probably learning how to say no. I think that is probably one of my biggest challenges. As an entrepreneur, I'm always, I feel like I come up with business ideas on a daily basis, and there's always some new idea that I have, or that someone's brought to me, or some new project that someone wants me to be part of. And I think most of my life, I have always run, as close to full bandwidth as possible. And I think I'm learning now in my older age to start to say no, and really working diligently for that work-life balance. So I would definitely say that's one of the hardest lessons that I'm having to learn.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited to talk about NFTs and how do we relate that to real estate. But I'm going to take a quick step back because the majority of you don't know this. But when I was in high school, I took, I don't know if you know this, Liz. I studied full time on this IT school. And I learned, I don't know how to say this in English, DOS, C++, different types of coding. And I remember my first time accessing internet and the noise.
I did too. I did too.
I'm just getting aging myself so badly right now, but that's okay. The reason why I'm saying this, that was a turning point. And I remember my first website was NASA, and I don't know why. But anyway, the point is that I think we are in the same moment right now, in a transition moment where we're like, what are you talking about? We're going to be able to access different things and talk to people, right? And now we are we're talking TikTok, completely different type of social media. And we are revolutionizing how we are communicating. And now NFT, not now exactly today, but I think we are in a transition where another world, Web3, is opening up. And I think that a lot of women are curious about it, embarrassed that they don't understand, and they're also eager to learn more so they can plan their future ahead and benefit from being part of it. So that's the goal of this episode, and I'm very excited about it. So without further ado, let's just start about breaking down NFT fifth grade level or first grade level, Leslie?
Kindergarten level.
Kindergarten. Oh, Jesus.
No
Liz.
problem.
That's where
Well,
we're going.
No problem. So NFT stands for non-fungible token. So if we were to break down those words, I think that's where we can kind of start. Fungibility means the ability to transfer one item for another item, and they both have the same value. So for example, dollars are fungible. Our money is fungible. So if I was to give you $1 and you were to give me $1, at the end of the day, they're both worth $1. Now, non-fungible means that one item cannot be easily exchanged for another at the same value. Non-fungible tokens are ultimately, to make it as simple as possible, is unique code that lives on the blockchain, which you can kind of say blockchain is like another version of the internet. It's Web3. And again, this is fifth grade, kindergarten kind of thing that, you could get into a lot more details as to the real difference between blockchain and the internet. But we'll say this is unique code that lives on this world called the blockchain. And so its value is dependent on the utility that you provide it. And utility can be anything from a beautiful digital work of art, which is where most people know and hear about NFTs for the first time, is, the Bored Apes, and all these different digital artworks that have been sold for multi-million dollars. But the real power of NFTs come in other types of utility, especially when we're talking about industries and actually revolutionizing industries. So, you can empower an NFT to have provide access. It provide membership. They can be used for marketing. They can be used in our specific use case. It was used to hold ownership rights. So the ownership rights of a property can be held within an NFT.
I love that. So walk us through that, because I know in reading your bio and learning more about you, you said you mentioned that you made history by selling the first home in the world, via an NFT backed by real estate. So let's go back to the beginning. What did that process look like? How did that unfold from the very beginning to obviously being able to do that?
Sure. So our kind of blockchain crypto story started. I am a real estate investor full-time. And I kind of fell down the crypto blockchain rabbit hole a few years ago. I started attending Bitcoin conferences, really got kind of just fueled by the community. It's very similar to like the real estate investor community. It's very accepting and creative. And so once I started to understand the real power behind blockchain, it was like your mind just starts to expand, and, all the light bulbs start going off. And at the same time that I was falling down this crypto rabbit hole and attending my YouTube university on a regular basis related to blockchain, I was also finishing up a flip property in Gulfport, Florida. So this was a property that I purchased at, I think it was like $250,000. At the time when I purchased it, I had analyzed the potential ARV at like $600,000. So I had a nice spread there. And my cousin and I actually had decided a few months before I had finished up this flip property that we wanted to open up a blockchain company. We realized, this is the way of the future. We really want to be engaged. We want to stay part of this community, and we can do what, based upon our limited knowledge at that time, we can help other companies kind of get onto the blockchain. So we were working a lot with mom and pop companies to help them start accepting crypto, teach them a little bit about NFTs and blockchain. But we quickly realized that there was this cultural block, and it was an educational block primarily, where they just couldn't understand what is all this hype about. They couldn't get past, the digital art use of NFTs. So we wanted to provide kind of a use case, a real world use case, so that people could say, oh, okay, now I get it. I understand now where the power is. And because this flip property was pretty much about to be finished, we decided, why don't we sell the property as an NFT and connect the ownership rights within the NFT, show the world how this can be used to actually transfer the ownership of a property almost instantaneously. So we, at the time, we had a couple developers, but we wanted to, I mean, our timing was kind of one of those where we needed to get this property on the market right away because it was done. So we had connected with a company called Proppy at the time. They had the platform already set up. So we thought, you know what, let's partner. We'll use your platform and we will show the use case. So what we ended up doing is we used, because with NFTs, and this is starting to go into the more of the technical element of it, you know, the idea with blockchain and real estate would be that you can transact on the blockchain with less risk of fraud and much more efficiency and almost instantaneously. So if anyone's ever Venmo'd money over, and I use this as an example, again, this is a kindergarten kind of level example because it really is a little more cumbersome than this, but ultimately, if I can Venmo you money instantaneously, imagine if I could send you the ownership rights of a property instantaneously. So we would decide, agree upon a price for my property. I would then you would send me the funds and I would send you the NFT, which ultimately held the property rights of that property. So that's kind of like the big picture idea of where we could potentially be going with blockchain and real estate. Now, we're not there yet because the questions are, how is title, a deed, how is that handled? How are real estate agents, the commissions handled? How are doc stamp taxes handled? All these nuances that are very important to a legal transfer of ownership in real estate. And so the way we worked around that, because we've got old world and new world coming together, is building a bridge. And we did it under an operating agreement. So my flip property, I quit claim deeded into a new LLC. And that LLC ultimately was sold to the buyer of this property. And with the way it was sold was through an auction that had the NFT had the operating agreement, and there was a connection between the operating agreement and the ownership of the LLC. So ultimately, the property was sold through the sale of the LLC, if that makes sense.
It does. And I don't know how far we are from that beautiful scenario where the title companies, first of all, I can imagine they get in a call and you're explaining this to them and they're like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, we don't do that. Or
they
whatever.
refused.
They refuse. Exactly. Right. Of course, because I don't think that but it's like, what is that? What is the name of the Blockbuster? The movie where you rented the movie? Is that the
store, Blockbuster?
Yeah. If the title companies don't get into this
they're going to get
this string,
going to go away
quickly, they're out of business. They're totally out of business because how can you possibly you're out because it's going to be peer to peer. I know we're not there yet. So, and that's what was going to be my next question. How is it secured, or it was through all the paperwork that was done? You had to involve attorneys on that as well?
So what I did was I hired, because, the motivation for doing this was kind of twofold. Of course, I wanted to still make money and profit on my flip. That being said, I was willing, because I had thankfully had enough of a spread within that flip, I was willing to sacrifice some of that profit for this opportunity to showcase, be the first. So this was the first time in the country that it was sold. It's the second time in the world. There was one other time it was done in the Ukraine, actually, I think in 2017. So I sacrificed that and was willing to sacrifice that to be able to showcase this. And so I didn't want to, I knew that there would be a lot of visibility on this particular transaction. I didn't want to put myself in a bad position. So I actually went ahead and hired a real estate attorney to literally be my consultant along the way to make sure that everything I was doing was legally sound. And so we didn't actually involve a title company. What we did was we did run title. So we paid a title company to run title for us, but they were not part of, they didn't receive escrow or any of that. So what we did, because this particular property was sold via auction, we provided all of the whitelisted bidders a copy of an inspection report, the title report, and comparables. And so they were able to do their own kind of analysis prior to participating in the auction. But we do definitely see, like I've actually been interviewed on a couple different podcasts that were specific to the title agency community. And there's a huge fear within the title agency and the real estate agent community that their jobs are going to kind of disappear. And my argument is that I think they're going to evolve. I'm not sure that it's going to necessarily disappear. And plus, there is a long way to go because we have to have local government on board and we need to have mass adoption. And so there's some time for that. And I think there are going to be industries that are developed because of this technology and because there's a different kind of need. Maybe there's insurance on your NFT versus insurance on your title. There's, some of this is, we're really in the kind of Wild West. This is all new ground in a new world. So there's going to be definitely a lot of evolution.
What excites you about this? And I think that would be helpful to understand, like, where do you see and what would excite a real estate investor listening, to think about the potentiality of what you've been through and put themselves in that situation? Like, what about that process would say, I don't want to do it the old way. I want to do it this way?
Efficiency.
Okay.
Efficiency. I think the biggest power of blockchain for not only the real estate industry, but in so many industries is efficiency and protection against fraud. The real estate industry is riddled with fraud in so many elements, whether it's real estate insurance or mortgage fraud, so many different elements and levels of fraud that people are experiencing. But more than anything is efficiency. And I will never forget, it was just kind of the juxtaposition of two different worlds that happened. I sold the property as an NFT on a Tuesday. And on a Wednesday, I refinanced one of my multifamilies. And to talk about like such two different worlds where I literally had sold a property instantaneously on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, I had a mobile notary come to my house and give me a pile of paperwork that I had to sign through. And it took an hour and a half to get through all of this. That's the difference. And time is money, and time is, whether it's money or it's we go into real estate for freedom of time and freedom of financial freedom. And the more efficient you can make an industry, it's just, we work better and seamlessly.
Makes a lot of sense. Question about that, just to follow up on that. So when you mentioned you were sacrificing, because that was the other comment you made a couple moments ago, what were you sacrificing? Were you sacrificing profit? Were you sacrificing other pieces to the puzzle? Like, so if I'm an investor, right, I can go down the old way and go this. I hear what you're saying in terms of efficiency and fraud, but is there a profit? And I know this is I'm going to ask you the question because I'm going to try to even explain it, but I'm curious to get your insight. When you said sacrifice, are you referring to other pieces to why we even sell properties to gain that profit so we can, grow our business?
So the sacrifice was very specific to this transaction. And the reason I'm saying it is that I understood the risk I was taking by being the first.
Okay.
Which
gotcha.
means there could be people that are too scared to participate.
Sure.
But I'm going to be adamant that this is the way I'm going to sell this property because I want to show the world that this is possible, right? So the reason, here is a perfect example of the sacrifice. One was I hired a real estate attorney when normally in a typical transaction, you don't need to, but I did it because I wanted to make sure I was doing everything legal and according to the law. The second is I had a offer for the property that was $100,000 more than the listing price, and two, the sale price that I ended up selling it for. And it was a traditional offer. And I did not accept that offer because, again, I wanted to prove the use case. I wanted to prove the technology. So that was a sacrifice. I sacrificed the potential of gaining another $100,000. Well, here is another sacrifice. So we did our transaction on the Ethereum network with Ethereum crypto. And cryptocurrency is volatile right now. I sold the property at the of 210 ETH, Ethereum, which was the equivalent of about $650,000. The next day, which is the day I refinanced my multifamily, I woke up and I was exhausted because this was a very long journey of, lots of interviews and there was lots of publicity, and we had done an NFT drop party. So lots of things that were leading up to this that was just exhausting. So I was exhausted. I looked at my wallet and my Ethereum had gone up because the price of Ethereum had increased. So great. But I was so tired, I didn't want to liquidate. And in this case, I needed to liquidate because I had some private loans involved and different extra expenses that needed to be paid out after the sale. I waited 2 days because I wanted to kind of okay, let me do this now. The price of Ethereum dropped. So, and that it was the trigger of ultimately the bear market, the crypto bear market. That was when it started. So I was then chasing Ethereum all the way down. So I actually lost another $100,000 on my way down trying to liquidate. So that was the sacrifice that ultimately I was willing to take because I knew at the end of the day, you had one opportunity to be able to be the first to do this and to prove the concept. So I think for typical real estate investors, I don't think there is going to be quite that type of sacrifice. In fact, one of the kind of great things about what happened is the person who bought the property was a female real estate investor who doesn't understand or really know crypto or blockchain, but she was investment savvy. So she was able to look at the property and realize this is a great price for this property, and I'll figure out how to do this to be able to participate. And she did, and she won the property.
I love this so much that it was a woman and then it was a woman who bought it. And
story keeps getting better. Yeah.
I was watching a Shark Tank one time, and then this woman was presenting, and she did not have all the pieces of the puzzles. And then the Mr. Wonderful was asking her a couple of informations, and she was not 100% prepared to be there. And then he said, let me tell you a quick story. Like the, what are called those animals that they clap their paws like this? What's it called? Seal. Is it a seal?
I'm pretty sure.
That they are in the rocks having some sunlight and that type of thing, right? There's a moment, right? They are all gathered together there, and they need to start migrating. However, the sharks also know that. So they make a decision that somebody needs to jump, die, for the rest to go. Mm-hmm. And I really commend you, Leslie, because I think that that's exactly what you did. For the rest of us that are coming behind you, we're going to learn from your lessons. We're going to make it our battle now. We're going to make and we're going to continue making sacrifice for the next generations to come. You sharing your challenge with liquidating. People are going to be like, okay, I close now and I'm going to liquidate 2 hours later or whatever that time is. So I just want to commend you for your courage to taking the leap and to bravely going through something that we're always going to be pointing out at you as the first one to, take that leap. I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That being said, where do you think this is going? Do you think that we're going to be able to sell not the entire property, but pieces of it, like quote unquote stocks? Is that what you think we're going?
Absolutely. So you can go there. I mean, the great thing about NFTs and blockchain is you got to go back and boil down the most beneficial parts of the technology. It's transparency, it's immutable, so it helps avoid fraud. The tokenizing of properties is happening. Our company DeFi Unlimited is actually doing that as well. This is absolutely going to happen and is happening. And it's through the use of smart contracts, which is another part of the technology. So smart contracts it's kind of a misnomer. It's actually just code that automates transactions. So the idea behind blockchain and cryptographic technology is that you can use a code that automates procedures. So let's say you decide to buy my property and I agree on the price. As soon as we both kind of hit the button that we agree, the smart contract then automatically takes it from there, moves money into escrow wallets, automatically transfers the NFT, automatically transfers the crypto, automatically pays the realtor that was involved. Everything is automated. So there is less potential for human error. Tokenizing of properties is just one way that we can use smart contracts in the real estate industry.
Oh, that's my love language. Smart contracts. I don't know about you guys, but I get so freaking excited when we just don't waste time into things that have nothing to do with relationships, just admin work, and that can be done by a smart process. For the women that are excited to hear your story, and they are like thinking, wait, I would like to try that. What would you say are their first steps on analyzing? Like, I think that I'm assuming they should do a quote unquote an audit to see if is there such a qualification evaluation that they should be doing first regarding their finances and the property itself before thinking about this possibility?
Are you asking in terms of selling a property as an NFT?
Yes.
So, well, I think first of all, if you're gonna go into this world, I think educate yourself as much as possible. It's very important. And then I think what is important is making sure that you are using you're using the products. So you can NFT a property, but you have to make sure the utility is real. So you have to make sure that you're. So one of the things we had were people that were like, oh, we're going to sell our property as an NFT. And they took a picture of the property and they made it an NFT and said, see here, you can buy my property. Here's an NFT. But the NFT didn't have any true utility. The ownership rights were not actually connected to that NFT. It was just a picture of the house. So be very, very careful in that respect. What's important is being able to use products that actually do what they're saying they're doing.
And how would they, this might be a dumb question, but how do they verify that utility is legit?
Well, for example, what we're doing with DeFi Unlimited is we have developers that are coding smart contracts that will automatically NFT your property. And then when the we'll automate the entire sale and purchase of a product of a property. We're also building property management smart contracts to automate that part of the real estate industry as well. And so you want to do research on the NFT and on the company that you're working with. Make sure that there's legal backing with everything. An NFT, especially when it has some utility, should have some sort of, contract that you can see, and make sure that you are in agreement with everything that's in that contract. So those are different ways that you can do it. Just want to make sure that the legal side is right.
Question for you too, Leslie. And I know you're not an accountant necessarily, but I'm sure you've been through this with the process, and you probably know the question I'm about to ask. What we love about real estate, right, is that all the amazing tax advantages, right? It's appreciating, but it's depreciating on paper, and it's just the magic of real estate, right? Where we all have come to love that as an asset class. you can't do all of those things with paper assets, as we know in the stock market. Not that that's a bad asset or you don't get any sort of advantages, but it's a different approach. So I'm curious, with this type of currency and this type of approach, is it, and again, knowing you're not an accountant, how have you managed the kind of tax implications of this? Is it more similar to like a paper asset because you're converting it in that way, or is it still similar to how we come to know what real estate can do from a tax advantage perspective?
The rules are really still the same. They're still the same. So for example, in my example of losing 100,000 in the value of Ethereum, I'm going to be able to deduct that expense. Okay. So I got $100,000 loss that I get to claim because, and that is just crypto. So the way that taxes work for cryptocurrency in the United States is it's taxed at when you move it. So I may buy one Ethereum at $1,000, but then I sell it at 3,000. So I will be taxed at the $2,000, income. But if you lose, let's say I buy Ethereum at $1,000 and I sell it at $500, now I have a loss and I can claim that loss. So it's just another element of expense that you can actually add to your taxes. It's not as complicated as people sometimes make it to be. You just have to follow the money, make sure you know where your money is going. And now many of the exchanges and wallets will provide you, a receipt afterwards.
That's great. The follow-up question, not just about that, but just in you being a trailblazer. I want to ask a question about just trailblazing this new area. What's been some of your greatest learnings through this? Like, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of no's. You can't do that. And I just think about women who've come before us and been trailblazers in times when it wasn't acceptable and in times that they weren't even able to vote. They were trailblazing different areas of our society, right? And here you are trailblazing this whole new area. And I love that. And I just curious what you've gleaned from that. So the women listening, obviously trailblazing in this particular area, but we're trailblazing different things in our lives. And I think that's one of the greatest things we can do for the next generation. How do you really be a trailblazer in something that people just aren't even sure of? They're not even doing. So tell us a little bit about that. How has that been for you? What have you learned? What would you share with the women listening?
I think it's very similar to anything difficult that we do as entrepreneurs. I remember when I left my full-time career to become a real estate investor, I vividly remember being at 2 a.m. painting my first flip, crying, going, I got a master's degree for this. Why am I doing this? Right. And so that lesson was you hire out the things you're not the strongest at and you focus on what you are strong at. If it's building teams or analyzing, properties or whatever, you focus on that. And that's all part of it's kind of like that sausage making part of any entrepreneurial endeavor. Right. And I would say in this particular situation, those lessons came into play just as much. I am not a techie person, and everyone automatically assumes that I am, and I am absolutely not a techie person, but I'm a logical person, and I can understand the technology and see how it could really revolutionize industries. And the fact that we did the entire transaction on Ethereum, and then Ethereum was volatile, so I learned, next time I'm going to do it on a stable coin until cryptocurrency stabilizes. I think it's that stick-withedness, I guess, is so valuable that you just realize we can do hard things and that we can go through difficult moments. And you can sit there and maybe you're upset or maybe you're angry or maybe you don't see how you're going to get out of this particular situation, but you just have that internal knowledge that you will figure it out because you have figured out so many other things that were difficult as well. And I think that's really valuable. And having a community or a team. I have two amazing co-owners of DeFi Unlimited, one of whom is my lifelong friend and also a high school friend, Kathleen Wodnicki, and our COO, CTO, Janella Fonzago, who's my cousin. And, there were definitely difficult moments. We launched our NFT party literally a week and a half before the sale. And everyone told us, you're not going to have anyone show up. And it was amazing, how the three of us just came together to market the event, and, sleepless nights, but you just go and you do it. And it was an incredibly successful event. It really, we were able to connect with so many amazing investors, entrepreneurs, and people come to us actually with tears in their eyes, like, thank you for doing this. And so it makes it all worth it to go through kind of that grind. But I think if you're in this space, you know that already, there's going to be sucky moments and you just have to keep going.
I love that, because it's so true, right? And it's so true on any, we've mentioned it, but we were told we'd run out of women to interview because it's just not a lot of women investors, and this wasn't in like the 60s. This was like 4 years ago, right, by a friend. It was actually not someone random. So, right. I think it gives me such hope to think about women as trailblazers and how the world needs more of them, and I know there's so many and we're shining the light on them, but I know there's so many women who have that in them, who opt out for different reasons and different life circumstances. And it that would give me such joy. And I'm sure, Andres, it's for all three of us, right? To see just so many more women, whatever, shining the light wherever they are, but really just trailblazing and being the first. It just gives me a lot of hope. So
yes.
Good stuff. Leslie, thank you so much for being on our show. I think there's a lot more we're going to need to do here. Before we go there, quick educational, resource. Women listening to this, like I just Googling it's overwhelming because there's a lot going on when you Google stuff. Any particular like go-to educational resources that you would recommend before we wrap up?
So we have really recently connected with a woman who is starting a kind of an educational platform. It's called Crypto Pro Cafe. And you can actually join her membership. We're actually putting together as well, like an educational product as well that people can just download from our website. And it's really like blockchain 101. It's trying to understand the basics, but it's all there in one place. We notice that like education is such an important part of this space, because to get to the point where you're reaching mass adoption, you need to have people that get it, that understand why we're here and why we think this is going to be the way of the future. So those are two resources. There's a couple different, podcasts out there that I've always loved. Cryptos Are Us is a YouTuber who he's really funny, and I find this information really good. He's primarily focused on cryptocurrency specifically. But Crypto Pro Cafe is probably one of the best places that I've liked because they break it down a little bit more. It is hard. It's hard not to weed through it. But one of the things I learned, even when I was just starting to learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency, was just being there and going through, you watch one YouTuber for a while, or you listen to one podcast for a while, you start to get more and more knowledge, and you start to be able to weed people out. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, this person really doesn't know what they're talking about, but this person does. So it is definitely, kind of a proactive approach to your learning and education.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that recommendation. Leslie, where can the ladies listening learn more about you?
Well, we have all the socials, DeFi Unlimited. We also have a website, is DeFiUnlimitedLLC.com. We're also going to be dropping our first NFTs, which actually provides some really great utility. There's going to be 3 tiers. We have a lot of people that are always just like, we want to be involved with your company. We want to help you. So we're going to have like an introductory tier that, you get these really cool NFTs, which are really cool digital artwork. But you get access to us, consulting. We're going to be putting out some quarterly masterminds. So depending on the tier of NFT that you purchase, you're potentially get access to those. And then our top tier is kind of a board of directors tier. So you get much more involvement, almost part ownership of the company. So this is kind of, we haven't even talked about that. We're talking mostly about real estate, but there's other things called, there's other elements of businesses and business structure that will be changing because of NFTs, because of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Yeah, I really do think that businesses in general are going to be changing because of blockchain. So this will give you a little taste of how that happens as well.
It's very exciting. All this information you guys can find on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. And the first one, Leslie, is, what's the most transformational book you ever read?
Most transformational books. I would have to say Rich Dad Poor Dad is definitely on the top of my list. I'm first generation American. I came here and I come from a family of educators, and it was always traditional education was the road to true success. And it wasn't until I read that book that I realized, how he flipped it on the head. And it was really about, being investor savvy, and that was the most important education really to get. So that was very transformational. It really jump-started this whole chapter of my life.
Where your family comes from?
Argentina.
Oh, Argentina. So yes. We're rivals in
in soccer.
Just in soccer, but we have fun with the barbecue, the churrasco.
Yes.
The best in the world. Americans, you don't know what is what is a steak.
Yeah.
If you did not go to Argentina yet. Second question is, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
So probably the most powerful is this little notebook that I have. I've tried all kinds of calendars and agendas and all of this, and I actually have developed my own little system. I do my three bullet points in the morning where I give gratitude for whatever, three things that I give gratitude for. I write like my little to-do list, and I follow that up with a 15-minute meditation. And that really is just like the best start of my day. And I think is one of the most powerful things I do.
Awesome. Last question is, which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
Mother Teresa has always been my idol since I was a very young girl. There's a lot of people that say real estate isn't the thing. It's just the thing that gets you to your thing. My true passion is in philanthropy. And, that is, I believe, a chapter in my life that is there waiting for me. And I believe real estate and blockchain is what's going to help me get there. Mother Teresa was actually my biggest inspiration.
I love that. She's one of my favorites too. And she's a
tough cookie though.
She is a tough cookie, right?
She raised a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
She would do well, Rosie.
I know.
I
have a lot of books about her. Very cool. Leslie, thank you so much for being on our show. And honestly, just thank you so much for being a trailblazer in our world today. I love that your business is women-led by 3 women. Yeah. I love that you're taking this on to say, let's do this more efficiently. So just keep at it, and we have your back. So
thank you.
And thank you for sharing your knowledge about this, for many, still trying to figure it out topic. And I think this is a great intro and a great opportunity to whet everyone's appetite to say, hey, I want to go learn a little more. This has got some really neat potential. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.